Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials or any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopsschool.com. Thank you.
Okay, so today we will start with operators. So I think yesterday we were covering strings, right? Okay, so today we will start with operators. And tomorrow we are going to write the program in PyCharm, that is community edition. So I will let you know how, that is from where to download PyCharm and which version of PyCharm needs to be downloaded, like that. Okay, I'll let you know towards the end of the session. Right.
Is it a
So
small
now
ID?
Yeah. That is an ID, proper ID.
Is it a small ID? Means size wise?
Size wise, okay. It's a small only. It's not like Eclipse and all or
Okay, fine.
NetBeans. Okay, so it is smaller one.
Okay.
Okay.
Limited space.
So, sorry.
Nothing. As I say, I have a limited space in my laptop. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Please continue. Yeah, sorry to disturb. Okay.
No problem. Right. So now let's start with operators. Okay. So what is the use of operators? Like it is used to perform some arithmetic operation or some to evaluate conditional expression. Okay, so I can write operators are used to evaluate the conditional expression. So basically it is used to evaluate the expression, we can say like that. So it can be arithmetic expression or conditional expression. Okay, so we have different types of operators in Python. Okay, so first let's see the common set of operators across all the programming languages. So first one we have arithmetic. Okay, so hope you guys know what are all arithmetic operators, right? That is plus, minus, those things. So let's say num1 is equal to 5 and num2 is equal to 3. Okay, so now if I want to add, I can just write num1 plus num2. So this will add two numbers. Then we have subtract, nothing but num1 minus num2, and we have multiplication, that is multiply. So it will be num1 star num2. Then we have divide, which is nothing but num1 slash num2. That is, it returns the exact value along with decimal. Okay, so whenever you do 5 by 3, okay, it returns 1.66666667 like that. Okay, and then we have modulus. It's nothing but num1 percentage num2. That is, it returns the remainder. Whenever you divide 5 by 3, what is the remainder you will get? Okay, and also we can retrieve the quotient. It's nothing but float division. So this is not in any of the programming languages. So in this we have, that is num1 double slash num2. Okay, single slash is nothing but exact division, and double slash is nothing but it's just the integer part of the division value. Okay, and in other terms we can say it returns the quotient. Okay, and at last we have something called power of, that is exponentiation operator, num1 star star num2. That is, whenever I say 5 double star 3, that's nothing but 5 cube, 5 to the power of 3. Okay, so you can see the output here, that is addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. It is 1.666667, and then modulus is remainder, float division is 1, power of is 125. Okay, so these are all arithmetic operators. Okay, any doubts, guys? Any doubts you have?
Okay.
Clear, right?
No, Mohan, yeah.
Yeah. So next one we have something called assignment operators. Okay, we can write assignment, or also called as shorthand operators. Okay, assignment or shorthand operators. That is, we can use equal to, plus equal to, minus equal to, star equal to, slash equal to, and then percentage equal to, double slash equal to, and double star equal to. So basically in Python, right, we don't have the increment and decrement operators like plus plus and minus minus. So if you want to increment, what you have to do is first you can assign it, and then you can just do like this: count plus is equal to 5. Okay, so it is indirectly executing this particular statement. That is, whenever you say count plus equal to 5, that means count is equal to count plus 5. Okay, so this is nothing but assignment shorthand operators. So now you can see the output. It will be okay. I didn't print that, sorry. Let me just print the count now. So you can see the output here is nothing but 10. Count is nothing but 10. Clear? And the third operator we have is comparison operators. That is, with respect to Python, right, we don't have separate operators for numerical comparison operators and string comparison operators like that. Okay, like if you take shell script and all, we have two different operators. For numerical, we have separate operators, and we have separate operators for string comparison. But with respect to Python, we have some common comparison operators for any data type, that is equal to, double equal to, not equal to, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So these are some common operators basically. Okay, now for example, consider I want to compare two different values. Let's say, is num1 greater than num2? Okay, so I can write num1 greater than num2. Okay, so now you can see the output like true. Okay, so these are very few operators. Okay, like arithmetic, which is useful for arithmetic calculations. Assignment, it is used to assign the value to the variable after performing some arithmetic expressions. And then comparison, it is used to compare two different variables. Okay, so guys, please take it down, and then we will see the rest of the operators. Okay, so please try it out. Then we will talk about some more operators. We have 5 more operators in Python. We will talk about that one by one. So let me know once it is completed.
Mohan, what is floor division? I missed it. Sorry, I joined 1 or 2
Okay,
minutes
so
late.
float division is nothing but it returns the quotient. Okay, double slash returns only the quotient. That is, when you divide 5 by 3, okay, what is the quotient? 1 is the quotient, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that will be written.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, so modulus retains the remainder, float division returns the quotient. So completed, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mohan. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Ravi?
Yes, Mohan. I also.
Yeah. Okay, so next one we have logical operator. Okay, next one we have logical operator. So you guys know logical and logical or logical not, right? So we can say and. When and will be satisfied, it will be true when all the conditions are true. Okay, all the given conditions are true. And then we have or. It will be true when any of the conditions is true. That is, any one of the condition is true, then it will be true. Then we have not. Okay, that means it inverts the result of the Boolean expression. Okay, if it is true, it will return false. If it is false, it will return true. Okay, then I can just write, let's say string is equal to PHP. Okay, now I am just writing. Okay, so I can say using and len of string percentage 2 not equal to 0 and string equals string of colon -1. Okay, so what is this length of string percentage 2? That is, len of string is number of characters in the string, that is 3. So 3 percentage 2 not equal to 0. Yes, because 3 percentage 2 is 1. 1 is not equal to 0. So this condition is satisfied. And then what I'm checking here, that is string is equal to reverse of that particular string. So you can see here PHP is equal to PHP. It's true, right? So first condition is satisfied. Second condition is also satisfied. So now it will return true. Okay. For example, let me just change it to Perl. Now both the conditions are okay, or else let's say like PHR. Okay. Now in this case, the first condition is satisfied, but not the second condition. Okay, so in this case, this will return false because true and false, it will return false. So both the conditions should be written true. Only then and will evaluate to true. For example, if I use or, okay, instead of and, it will return true because the first condition is satisfied, but not the second condition. When you use or between the conditions, at least any one of the conditions should be satisfied. So we have the first condition is satisfied, right? So now you can see the output as true. Okay, clear? So this is nothing but logical operator. And if I want to use not, I can just say like this. See here, I can say not of like this. So this will return false. Okay, this complete set returns false. So not of false is nothing but true. You can see true. Similarly, if I have or in this case, now what will happen? This will return false. So basically it inverts the result of the Boolean expression, that is nothing but not. So these 4 operators, arithmetic, assignment, comparison, logical, these 4 operators are common in all the programming languages. Now we are going to see the operators which are explicitly present in Python. So first one, we are going to see membership. What do you mean by membership? That is, it checks, okay, it checks whether the given element is part of the object. That's nothing but membership. So let's see with a string. So these membership operator will work with all iterable objects. Okay, so what are iterable objects? string, tuple, list, dictionary, right? Okay, so now let me explain with respect to string now. Okay, later on we will see with respect to list, tuple, and then dictionary. All right, so let's say string is equal to Python. Okay, string is equal to Python. Now if I want to check whether ON is present in string or not, okay, I want to check whether ON is present in string or not. So in this case, what we can do is I can just write is on present in string. So I can say ON in string. This is nothing but membership operator. Okay, so if it is present, if ON is present in the string, it returns true. If it is not, it returns false. Not in is just opposite to in. If it is present, it returns false. If it is not present, it returns true. Okay, now you can see is on present in string is nothing but true. Okay, or else I can just write like this something. Okay, so now I will take like this. That is on present in Python, so true. Okay, so this is called membership operators, which is used to check whether the given element is part of the object or not. Okay, and so next one we are going to talk about identity operator. Identity operator, that is and is not. Okay, is and is not, that is nothing but identity operator. Is comma is not. So what is this identity operator? It checks the type. For example, consider this string you have retrieved from some other function. Okay, you want to check whether that particular function has retrieved string or not. Okay, so for that what we can do is I can say is string. Okay, or let's say len method. Okay, is len function returns integer. Okay, so I can write type of len of string is int, because len is a function, right? Length of string is what? 6, which is nothing but integer. So I am checking whether len function returns an integer or not. Okay, so for that you can use is operator. Okay, so now you can see yes, it is true. Okay, and also this identity operator is used to check whether two different objects belongs to same reference. For example, consider I have two variables. Let's say num1 is equal to 5, num2 is equal to 5. Okay, in other languages, if two different variables are holding the same value, both will occupy two different memory locations, right? But in Python, both will share the memory, both will point to the same memory location, so both will hold the same reference. All right, so now consider I'm just printing the reference, that is id of num1 and then id of num2. So id is a function which displays the reference of a particular variable. Okay, so now you can see both pointing to same memory location 53680, 53680. So if I want to check whether both the variables are pointing to two different memory location, I can check like this. Let's say print. First one, I am checking the values. Checking the values whether they are equal or not. That is, I can say num1 equals num2. Whenever you use equal to operator, it checks whether the values are equal or not. Okay, but whenever I say checking the reference, if I want to check whether they are pointing to same reference, I can write num1 is num2. So now you can see both will return true. Okay, so this will happen for all primitive data types. Now let's consider list. Okay, now let's see. See here. Now it is having same values, but whenever you define two different lists, okay, it will point to two different memory location, because list is mutable, that we are going to see tomorrow. I can add the elements to the list. Okay, so we can't say this particular reference will always be same as this one. That's why we have two different IDs, 0404, sorry, 04040 and then 02696. And now when I am checking whether the values are equal or not, okay, then you can see true. That is num1 equals num2. It is true because values are equal. But when I check the reference, num1 is num2, now you can see false, because this time it is checking the reference, not the values which are present inside it. Okay, so this is nothing but identity operators. So guys, clear? Any doubts you have? Yeah.
Mohan, identity will be also not equal, right?
Sorry, identity.
If you say that ID num1 equal to ID num2, what it will return?
Okay, so if I do like this, is it? So checking the reference using double equal to, right?
Yeah, and you say
ID
here
of num1 equals ID
num1
of
equal
num2.
to ID.
So basically
Yeah.
it should be equal only. Okay, so it is false. Because it is pointing to two different memory reference, right?
Got it. That's what.
Okay. Yeah. The thing is, this one is nothing but a function call you are performing, but over here it's just an operator, right? So the performance oriented one actually. So now if you say num1 is num2. Okay. So now if I say this, it will be true. That is, if I have some integer values instead of it, then it will be true always, because that time these two reference are same. Okay, Ravi? Yeah. So guys, take it down.
Yeah.
So logical operator, membership operator, and identity operator. So let me know once it is done, and then we will see two more operators.
Yeah, Mohan. Okay.
Yeah. Ravi and Akhilesh.
Yeah, done, Mohan.
Yeah. Okay. Ravi, are you fine?
Yeah, I'm also done.
Yeah. Okay. So next one we have concatenation operator. Okay. So next one we have concatenation operator, that is plus. So over here, whenever you use plus, data types of all operands should be same. Okay, if data type is int, it performs addition. If data type is non-int, it performs concatenation. Okay, so that is, I can write. So if I say 5 plus 3, it's nothing but what? Addition. It returns 8. And similarly, if I say concat 5 plus 3, that is string 5 plus string 3, it performs concatenation. Okay, so look at this now. 853. Okay, so in this case, the data types of all the operands should be same. You can't give string plus int or int plus string like this. You can't give two different data types for the operands. So that time it will give you the error. See here, can only concatenate str, not int to str. All right. So the data types of all the operands should be same. Okay, 53 and then 8. That's nothing but concatenation operator. The last one is repetition operator, the one which we are using very frequently, that is star. In this case, if data type of all operands are int, it performs multiplication. If data type of any one operand is non-int, then it performs repetition. That is, now if I say multiplication, that is, if I say 5 into 3, now all the operand data types are integer. So it performs multiplication, that is 5 into 3 is 15. Okay. Now, if I say REP1, I can write string 5 into 3. That is, if data type of any one operand is non-int and rest of the data types are int, then it performs a repetition. That is string 5 into 3. It will print 555. See here, 555. Okay, and it can be in any order. See, I can give like this also, 5 into string 3. I can give like this also. So in this case, what will happen? 3 will be printed 5 times. 3 will be printed 5 times. Okay, and I can give any number of operands. That is 2 into 3 into 3. So in this case, what will happen? 2 into 3 is 6. 6 into string 3. That is 6 times 3 will be printed. Okay, look at this. 6 times 3 will be printed. So this is the thing but repetition operator. Okay, yeah, take it down, these two, concatenation and repetition. So if it is done, please let me know. We will move on to conditional statements.
To get our channel membership, click onto the join button, select the 3D99 plan and grow your skills immensely.
Ravi and Akhilesh?
Yeah, Mohan. Done.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let me close this. So next we are going to see conditional statements. Okay. So what are conditional statements? So basically, conditional statements are deciding to, it decides the flow of execution. Okay, these conditional statements decides the flow of execution. Okay, it decides the flow of execution. So first one, we are going to see simple if else. Okay, first one we are going to see simple if else. So from now on, we are going to write indented blocks. Okay, we are going to write indented blocks. So let's say num is equal to 5. Now I am writing, first I have to start with a keyword called if, followed by condition. If num percentage 5 is equal to 0. Okay, and then I can have any number of conditions using AND operator, using AND or OR operator. Okay, I can say num is greater than or equal to 5. So for better understanding, you can have brackets also, like this. Okay, you can have brackets like this. So once you are done with the condition, just place colon at the end. Okay, just place colon at the end. All right, and then you can start writing the statements. S1, S2, and then S3. So whenever you place colon and if you press enter, the next line will be indented by default. Okay, the next line will be indented by default. That is, in all the Python supported editors, it will do the same thing. And with respect to indentation, you can either give spaces or tab characters. Okay, number of spaces or number of tabs can be given as the indentation character. Okay, and then you can write, and then statements within the block. Okay, statements within the block should be given the same level of indentation, and statements across the block can be or may be given different levels of indentation. Okay, different levels of indentation. So what is the meaning of that? Okay, so that is, this is nothing but one block. Now I want to end this block. What you can do is you can press enter and you can unindent to the previous indentation level. Then you can say else. So the indentation of else should be in sync with the indentation of if. Okay, so both the statements should have the same level of indentation. Then you can say else colon, and then you can see whenever I say colon and if I press enter, the next line will be indented by default. Then I can write print S4 and then print S5. So now if I execute this, you can see if block will be executed. Simple if else, S1, S2, S3. So if block is getting executed. Now, statements within the block should follow the same level of indentation. That is, these are nothing but one block, right? All the statements should follow the same level of indentation. I can't write like this. For the first line, 1 tab. For the second line, 2 tabs. And for the third line, 3 tabs. I can't write like this. Okay, if I write like this, this will show me the indentation error. That is unexpected indent. Okay, syntax error. The program will never be executed. Okay, so that's why we are saying statements within the block should be given the same level of indentation. But statement across the block may be given the different levels of indentation. See, I can give like this. Here I have given two tabs, but all the statements should be within the block given 2 tabs. Okay, so now if I execute, let's say num is equal to 15, or let me give 1. Okay, so now you can see else block will be executed, S4 and S5. But as part of the coding standards, for one indentation level, you should give only 1 tab character. For one indentation level, you should give only 1 tab character so that it is very easy to maintain. Okay, so that it is very easy to maintain. So now you can see the output. S4 and S5 is getting printed. Okay, so this is nothing but simple if else. Now we have multi-level if else. So what is multi-level if else? Okay, let's write multi-level if else. So let me say num is equal to 125. Okay, I can have any levels of if condition, like if, else if, else if, else if, else if, like that. So first I'm giving if num %5 is equal to 0, then I am writing divisible by 5. Here else if should be represented as elif, and then num %3 is equal to 0, then I can write print divisible by 3. So like this, you can have any number of elif statements, and at last I can have else print not divisible by 5 and 3. So what will happen? You can have any number of levels, you can have any number of elif statements, no problem at all. It checks from top to bottom. First it checks num %5 is equal to 0. If it is satisfied, it prints div by 5 and it comes out. It prints this one. For example, if this condition is not satisfied, then it will go to the next level. Num %3 is equal to 0. If this is satisfied, it prints divisible by 3 and then it comes out. If num %5 is equal to 0 is failed, num %3 is equal to 0 is failed, then it directly jumps to else class. Okay, then it prints not divisible by 5 and 3. Okay, so now what will happen in this case? It prints divisible by 5 because 125. Now if I remove 5, I have 12 now. So in this case, what will happen? It tells divisible by 3. Divisible by 3. Now if I remove the 2, now you can see else class will be executed. That is not divisible by 5 and 3. So basically, if I want to implement switch case, this is an alternative way in Python. You can write the switch case using multi-level if else. So over there we have default, right? Default is nothing but else class. Okay, if no cases are matched, it will directly execute else class. This is what happens over here as well. Okay, so this is about simple if else and multi-level if else. Take it down, guys, and let me know once it is done.
And can we write these if in interpreter directly? Suppose if I say Python 3.
Yeah. We can write it, no problem. But the program will be executed. That is, that particular block will be executed at once. You can't execute line by line. You have to write the entire block, then you can execute it.
Okay.
Okay, so you can't execute line by line there. Okay, see here. That is, if I say if true, okay, then I have to write the entire block. Yes, 1. Then again, yes, 2. Okay, then you can just press enter again, then it will be executed. So the entire block will be executed, not line by line.
Got it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You're done? Yeah.
Yeah.
Akhilesh and Ravi?
Just done.
Yeah.
Yeah, done, Mohan. Mohan, I wanted
Yeah.
to ask one more thing. So similar to
Yeah.
this LF, we can append n number of an LF, right? Or is it like only? Okay.
Yeah. See, I can write n number of levels. Any number of levels I can have. Elif, like that.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Yeah. So next one is nested if else. So nested if else is nothing but if condition within another if condition. Okay, if block within another if block. So let's say num is equal to 120. I can write if num %5 is equal to 0, then I am writing divisible by 5. Okay, and then I am starting another condition within it. So I can say if num %3 is equal to 0, then I can write print divisible by 3. Else I can say print not divisible by 3. Okay, and then I can write else class again, else class print not divisible by 5. So in this case, I have one if block within another if block. So the inner if block will be executed only when the outer if block succeeds. Okay, for example, now I have 120. So now 120 %5 is equal to 0. Yes, success. Okay, this condition is success. So it prints divisible by 5 and then it checks the condition. 120 %3 is equal to 0. Yes, it is also successful. Okay, so now what will happen? It prints divisible by 5 as well as divisible by 3. Both will be printed. Now consider I am giving 125. So in this case, what will happen? It prints divisible by 5, and when it checks for num %3 is equal to 0, it is failed, so it goes to else block, that is not divisible by 3. Okay, so you can see the output divisible by 5 and not divisible by 3. Now consider I have just 12. Okay, so in this case, what will happen? Num %5 is equal to 0. It is failed. Okay, it is failed. So it directly jumps to else class. So it prints not divisible by 5. That's it. Okay, the inner if block will never be executed. Okay, This is nothing but nested if else. That is if condition within another if condition. And the last one is single line if else. Okay, the last one is single line if else. So what is the purpose of single line if else? So if you want to assign a variable, okay, if you want to assign some value to a variable, depends on some condition. Like if it is success, assign one value. If it is not success, assign some other value. Okay, like that. So that is, I'm just checking check underscore num. Okay, let's say num is equal to 120. Okay, so result is equal to divisible by 5 if num percentage 5 is equal to 0, else not divisible by 5. That is, assign divisible by 5 to result if this condition is satisfied, else assign not divisible by 5 to this particular variable if this condition is failed. Okay, so now if I print the result, okay, if I print this result, you can see the output like this, divisible by 5. Now let me just remove this. Let's say num is equal to 12. Now what will happen in this case? Else class will be executed, so not divisible by 5 will be assigned. Okay, so we have seen 4 different forms like simple if else, multi-level if else, nested if else, and single line if else. In all the like in simple if else, multi-level if else, in nested if else, this else block is optional. Okay, this else block is optional. It will not throw any error even if this else block doesn't exist, because these else blocks are optional in simple if else, multi-level if else, and nested if else. But in this else class is mandatory. You should have the else class. Okay, without else class it will never work. See here, now I will get an error. Say invalid syntax. Okay, it should have else class. Okay, because this only then it will work. All right, so any questions? So take it down, nested if else and single line if else, and let me know once it is completed, and let me know if you have any queries. Then we will see looping statements. So guys, any doubts?
Yeah, no, I'm done. Yeah.
Done, right? Okay. So Akhilesh and Ravi,
Give me a sec, Mohan. I'm just running that command.
yeah, sure, no problem. Take your time, take your time.
One more second, Mohan.
No problem, Ravi, take your time.
Okay. So similarly, Mohan, can we not assign or so in this single if else, in the else side, we cannot write any other statement, right? Like it is understood that this is going to be assigned. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the thing is like here we can have any valid expression. I can have
Mhm.
some function call also. Instead of
Okay.
this, I can have some function call. So for example, I can say len of some Python here.
Hmm.
Okay, else, or else let's say like this. Okay, so Python dot upper,
Okay.
and then here let me write Python dot title.
Okay.
So like this also I can do. So it's not mandatory that you should assign some hard coded value. Okay, you can have function call, you can have any valid expression, you can place it there. Okay, so in this
Okay.
case, what will happen? Yeah, there is only the first letter will be in capital letter because the else class will be executed. Okay, see here,
Okay.
Python. For example, if I have something like 120, so now you can see it is Python like this.
Mm-hmm. So
So
any
any valid
and
expression can you place it here? Yeah,
okay, okay, understood.
yeah, yeah. So let me know once it is done. Okay,
Done.
Mine is done, yeah.
yeah, done, right? Okay. So now let's talk about looping statements. Okay. So as we discussed on day one, we have two different types of looping statements. One is for, other one is while. Okay. So we can use for loop when you want to iterate a set of statements based on a collection of values. Okay, if you want to iterate a set of statements based on a collection of values, then you can use for loop. And if you want to iterate a set of statements based on a condition, then you can use while loop. Okay, so now let's see for loop first. Okay, for loop with the strings. Okay, and using break. So the syntax is for iterative variable. You can have any variable name here. Okay, you can have any variable name here. In for element, there is for variable name in. This in is not membership operator. It is like we are iterating in which collection. For element in, let's say Python, then say colon, and then print element is ELEM. Okay. So now what will happen? We know string object is an iterable object which is indexed. That is, it starts with 0 and it goes on. So basically, it iterates through the indexes. First, it will retrieve index 0, then index 1, then index 2, index 3, index 4, index 5, and so on. So if I execute this, you can see the output element P Y T H O N. So with respect to string, that is, if you iterate through a string, it goes through each and every character. Okay, it goes through each and every character. And also here we have else class for looping statements as well. The indentation of else should be in sync with indentation of for. Both should be provided with the same level of indentation. Only then this else is considered for this particular loop. Then I can say print for loop done. So now what will happen? So this else class will be executed only when all the iterations are successfully completed. So now you can see the output PYTHON for loop done. Okay, now consider I am removing this else block, and then I am removing this print for loop done outside the for loop. Now what will happen? It prints each and every character. Once it prints n, it comes out of the for loop, then it will print for loop done. You can see the same output. You can see the same output, right? So then what is the purpose of having the else block with respect to loop? Now consider I'm just having some condition, that is if ELEM is equal to T, then I'm saying break. What does this break do? It terminates the looping statements. It terminates the looping statements. Okay, so now for P, this condition will never be satisfied, so it prints P. For Y, this condition will never be satisfied, it prints Y. And for T, this condition will satisfy, then break statement will be executed, it terminates the loop, it directly goes to the line, this one. So it prints for loop done, right? You can see the output, P, Y, for loop done. Now consider I am having else block now. Now what will happen? Whenever I say break, it comes out of the for loop completely. So it comes to this. So this else class will never be executed, because else class is also part of for loop. So that will never be executed. Okay, so in case of break, this will never be executed. Now you can see P and Y.
Mohan, this is all
Yeah.
else is always a part of if block, right? Or for
No,
also
no, no,
it
no.
will- Okay,
Else, this else is part of for.
okay.
See, both are at the same level of indentation. If I want to have else block for if, I should write it over here.
Okay. No, I was
Got
just thinking. So I was thinking else can only start if we have declared if before that.
No.
So with
That
for
is in
also
other
it will
programming.
work.
Yeah. So that is
Yeah.
in other programming languages. So in
Okay.
Python, for looping statement also you can have else.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, for both
Hey,
for
Mohan,
and
one question.
while. Yeah.
What is the use, Nikhil? What is the use?
Yeah. So I will explain the use cases. Okay, fine. So now consider you are processing some n number of files. Okay, there is a use case for this. Okay, where you can use this. Use cases for using else in for loop or in looping statements. Okay, so consider you are processing n number of files. Let's say in a list I have something, that is file 1, file 2, and then file 3. I am processing some 3 files. Okay, and I'm just marking it simply like file 1 is successfully processed, file 2 has some error in processing, and file 3 is successfully processed. Let's consider like that. Now you need to send an email only if all the files are successfully processed. Okay, so in other languages, how you will write that approach? You will be having some Boolean variable.
To get our channel membership, click onto the join button, select the $399 plan and grow your skills immensely.
Like is files processed is equal to 0. And then you will loop through all the files for fname in all files. So whenever I say fname, what will happen? It goes index 0 first, then index 1, then index 2. Right? So I can say processing the file, okay, fname. All right. So now I am checking whether error is present in file name. If that is the case, I'm just setting it to 0 again, and then I am breaking it. Else I am setting it to, okay, else I am setting it to is files proc is equal to 1. Okay, so what I am doing here, if file has some error, I am setting it to 0 and then I'm breaking the loop. So now outside this particular loop, I am checking if is files proc is equal to 1, then email sent. Else I can write print unable to send email. Okay, unable to send email. So now what will happen? File 2 has error. What is the what should be the output I should be getting? I should get unable to send email, right? You can see here, that is processing the file 1 colon success, processing the file 2 colon error, and then unable to send email. For example, if everything is success, I'll be getting as mail sent. See here, email sent, because everything is success. So this is what we will do in other programming languages. Okay, but using this else class in Python with respect to loops, what we can do is, let me write for fname in all files, print processing the file fname, okay, processing the file fname, then I am checking if error in fname print unable to send email, unable to send email, then break it. Okay, then break it. Else print email sent. That's it. This is what you have to do in Python with respect to for else. Okay, so look at this now. Same set of outputs. Processing file 1, file 2, file 3, email sent. For example, if there is any error, so now you can see file 1 success, file 2 error, unable to send email, file 1 success, file 2 error, unable to send email. So this is taking how many lines of code? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13 lines of code. That has been reduced to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines of code. So 13 lines have been reduced to 8 lines of code. And we are not using this temporary variable at all. Okay, we are not using this temporary variable at all. Okay, so basically this else class will be executed only when there is no break in the loop. If there is a break, some part of code should not be executed. Okay, so those code can be included in else class.
So else class
Got it?
will only be executed when there is a break statement inside of for loop.
No. Else class will not be executed whenever the break is executed. That's it. That's a scenario. Okay.
Okay. Okay, I
If
have a
there
doubt.
is no break, yeah. If there is no break, else class will always be executed. So there is no point in having else class. Okay.
So when is else class
uh,
executed?
so see, whenever consider your for loop has break statement in it, and that break statement is not at all executed, only then else class will be executed. Okay, so in order to remember it very easily, whenever break statement is getting executed, else class will never be executed. Break and else are opposite to each other. Any one will execute, either break or else class. Okay, both will not execute at the same time. That is to remember it very easily. Because break, you are coming out of the loop. Whenever you say you're coming out of the loop, that means else is also part of the loop, so you are coming out of it. Got it? So either break or else will be executed. Got it now?
No.
See, break, what is the purpose of break?
It's just one thing, yeah. So break is to get out of that for loop. So anyhow,
Yes, exactly.
not directly dependent on else, right? So else
No.
is not dependent
No.
on break, right?
No. See, the thing is, let me write it over here. This is with the else, and this is without else. Okay. Now you understood, right? This one, it goes
Yes.
character by character, right? So whenever element is equal to t, I am executing break. Now what will happen? It comes out of the for loop, so it comes to here, and it continues the execution from here. For loop done. Got it? But
Okay.
over here, whenever you execute the break, it comes to this particular line. This statement will never be executed. That is, whenever you say break, it comes out of the loop totally, because this else is part of for loop. Okay, so here you can't see this statement is getting printed. Okay, so now you can see element p, element y for loop done, because this is without else. Okay, but over here only element p, element y, there is for loop done. So since it is within else class, okay, it has come out of it.
Just yeah. Can I ask you one thing?
Yeah. Tell me.
Yeah. So this assume that in the both the condition, can you remove? There is no break statement. If you remove in the both the example, if you remove the break statement for as of now, so what will be the difference between the code? Code remains same,
No
right?
difference. No difference. Both are same.
Then what is the use case of else? I could have written, I won't need an else, right? I could have, if there is no break statement or nothing, the behavior.
That's what. So if there is no break statement, no need to have else.
Okay.
Okay, if there is no break statement, no need to have else, because if even if you are having else, even if you are don't having else, both are same.
Fine.
Okay, got it. So it differs only when you have break statement within a loop. Okay, It differs only when you have break statement within a loop. That's it, nothing else. Got it right? Now you got it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Ravi and Akhilesh?
Yeah, Mohan, it's good. I'm good.
Yeah. Okay, so try this out. So please try this out and then we will see continue.
Just bring it to the from where you that in front of it, no, so that we can
Yeah. So this is the one. This is the one.
let's scroll little bit down. Yeah, good, fine. Element one tried. So
You tried, is it? 1 second. Everyone try till point, till this point.
break.
Ah. So guys completed?
Yeah, Mohan, it's completed for me.
Yeah. Ravi?
Mohan.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's see continue. Okay. So we had seen break, right? So we had seen, now we are going to see continue. That is, I can write for element in Python. If element is equal to t, then say continue and then print element is ELEM. So for continue, it is not required to have else block, because whether you have else block or not, okay, the statement will always be executed. Okay, so for loop done. So it's not required to have else block at all for continue. So what is continue? So basically it skips the rest of the statements, okay, and jumps to the next iteration and jumps to the next iteration. That is nothing but continue. Okay, so now what will happen in this case is P, it will be printed, Y, it will be printed. Whenever it is T, it says continue, so it jumps to the next iteration. It will skip the rest of the statements within the block and it skips to the next iteration. Okay, so apart from T, everything will be printed in this case. You can see P, Y, H, O, N, and then for loop done. Okay, this is about continue. Now, if I want to iterate through the numbers, okay, if I want to iterate through the numbers, what should I do is I have something called range function. Okay, I have something called range function. That is, if I say range of 6, what will happen is it starts with 0 and it goes until 6, that is goes till 5, n minus 1. If I say 6, it goes till 5, n minus 1. And similarly, if I write range of 1 comma 6, it starts from 1 and it goes till 5. And I can write range of 1 comma 6 comma 2. The third parameter is step value. Okay, that is 1 plus 2, it is 3, 3 plus 2, it is 5. So 1, 3, 5 will be printed. Okay, so now I can write for num in range of 10 comma 5 comma minus 1, and then let me just print num now. What will happen in this case? So here it will start from 10. So first we will print 10, then 10 minus 1, 9, 9 minus 1, 8, 8 minus 1, 7, then 6, 6 minus 1, 5, 5 is excluded. So it prints 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Okay, one by one. You can see here 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Okay, so basically I can't see directly these values. For example, if I print range of 1, 6. Okay, so now what will happen in this case is it will print as it is. See here, range of 1, 6. Whatever I have given here, the same thing will be printed. So if I want to see the values which is present in this, I need to typecast it to list or tuple. Okay, I have to typecast it to either list or tuple. That is list of range of 1, 6. So in this case, I will be able to see the values. Okay, I will be able to see the values. Okay, so now you can see the values here. Range of 1, 6 nothing but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, clear? Yeah, take it down. This continue and this range. Please take it down. And then we'll see while loop.
So this range range operator does not returns anything, right? Independently,
Yes.
I use range.
Yes. So basically, it is iterable object. That's it. So we can use it in a loop, but it will not return anything.
Okay.
Yep. It's just iterable object. That's it.
Okay.
Mohan, what is this list range? What this list will do?
Okay, so what we are doing is, for example, if you want to see what are all the values that are present in this range, I am just typecasting to list, not to see the values. Okay, so it will convert this range object to list.
Okay.
Okay, that is,
Okay.
I can see the values like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are converting, okay, range object to list. We are just typecasting it in order
Okay.
to see the values which are present in range of 1, 6.
But for range 1, 6, what is the output? Can you show?
Just
Sorry.
it will print as it is. It will print as it
It
is.
will print as it is. Okay.
Yes.
Why is it so? But this is not a string. Why it has taken it as?
No,
This
it's
is
nothing but
function,
some
right?
class basically. Yeah, some
Yeah.
iterable object. So that's why it is printing as it is. So, but
Okay.
if you iterate through for loop, okay, then you can see the values one by one.
Right.
Okay, if you say yeah.
I have one question.
Yeah.
I just mistakenly did it, so I just wanted to understand. So what I did is, so I have assigned one variable v equal to range 1, 6,
Okay.
and then try to print that variable v. So what's
Okay.
happening? It is printing as a string range bracket 1, 6 as a it is accepting it as a string.
No, it
So
is not string.
okay.
See, it's not string basically. See, for example, let me say var is equal to range of 1, 6. Okay, I'm just printing here var. Okay, and then here also I'm just saying list of var. Then I am just saying type of var. Okay, so what will happen is it will be of object. Sorry, that's it will be of class range. So
Okay.
range itself is a class, some
So
iterable class.
yeah, so once we do list of range, then it converted it to list from
Converted to
that.
the list, yes. Converted to the list. For example, if I do it separately, okay, if I do this separately, okay, let me just say list of where, okay, let's say LST is equal to list of where, and then I'm printing LST and then type of LST. Okay, so now you can see the output. It is nothing but class list now. So we have converted from range type to class list. That's why
Right.
we are able to see the values like.
And Mohan, can we also retrieve this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 individually
Mhm.
by giving like var 0, var 2, var 1 in the parenthesis?
Okay, like this,
Like
right?
the like this. Can we retrieve like var 0? What
Yes,
is it?
yes,
1.
it
Okay.
is retrieving. Yes, it is
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
And also you can use minus index also, I think. Nothing but 5.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
The
Got
thing
it.
is we can't see the value basically. Okay, so directly we can't see the value because it just belongs to iterator class. That's the reason. Okay, Dennis?
Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. So let me know once it is done. We will see while loop.
Done for me, Mohan. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's write while loop. So before that, let me just write a very simple. Okay, so let me write the same for loop into while loop. Okay, so let's write count is equal to 10 while count is greater than 5, then I can just print the count, and then I can say count, then I can say count minus equal to 1, then I can have else class. So this else class will be executed whenever condition is failed. So the condition is the scenario is still same. If there is a break statement and if break statement is executed, else class will never be executed. Those scenario applies over here as well. Okay, so now you can see count is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So while loop done. So both are same here. Okay, number 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, count 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So the thing is, here we are using 2 lines of code using for loop, but over here we are writing some 4 different lines of code using while loop. Then where this while class will be useful, that is where we can use this while class. Okay, like you can use for loop when there is an finite number of occurrences. That is, you know, this will be the number of iterations for sure. Okay, you know this will be the number of iterations, then you can use for loop. Okay, consider the scenario wherein I'm getting the input from the user. Okay, I am getting the input from the user. So first let me explain what input function is. Okay, so I can say string is equal to, or let's say var is equal to, I can write input is a function and then the parameter to this is enter any value. This is nothing but prompt message. Okay, whatever you want to retrieve from the user, the message you can pass it as a parameter. And then I'm just writing print var and then type of var. Type of var. Okay. So now I can write. So whenever there is an input statement, it waits for the user input. So let me enter some input, let's say Python, and then I'm pressing enter. So once the enter key is pressed, the input will be accepted. So now you can see Python belongs to class str. Okay. Now consider I am entering a number. Let's say 528. I'm entering a digit. Now if I press enter, you can see this digit will also be taken as the type string. It will not be read as integer. You can ask, why can't we typecast it like this? Int of, input of, enter any value. So whatever, that is, if I'm entering any integer value, it will be typecasted to integer. That is, for example, if I enter 528 now you can see class int. It has been converted to int. But user inputs, we can't say. Okay, it can be anything. Okay, I will enter 5a also. We should handle all the scenarios in our code, right? So 5a, you can see it is throwing the exception. That is value error, invalid literal for int with base 10 5a. So this 5a is not able to typecast it to int. So in this case, what we can do, instead of typecasting it over here, I can have the loop which can take infinite number of occurrences. Okay, so get the number from the user. I can say while true, which will always be satisfied. Okay, and then I can write number is equal to input of enter any number. Now what I am going to do, I am checking whether the user has entered only numbers or not. Okay, check for any non-digit characters. Okay, so for that we have some method called isDigit. So this isDigit method is part of string class. It checks whether all the characters are numbers or not. If I have entered only the numbers as the input, this condition will be satisfied. So once this condition is satisfied, I can directly translate to, typecast to integer. Then I can say break. So this will come out of the loop, right? Because this is infinite number of occurrences. I should use break here. Okay, else I can just provide some message, invalid input, try again, like this. And then what will happen? Again it will go to while true. Okay, while true. So now let's see. This is for the first one, right? Python. So now if I enter Python, you can see invalid input, try again. Let me enter 5ab, invalid input, try again. If I say 528, it's numbers, the pure number, right? So now you can see it's done. The loop is done. Then I can just print it outside. So print num and then type of num. Okay, so now let's see this. It's Python. If I enter Python, invalid input, try again. If I say 5ab, invalid input, try again. If I enter 528, you can see 528 is class integer. Okay, so you can do that for, so that is, you can use while loop whenever you have this kind of scenarios, or you want to iterate a loop based on multiple conditions. So over here I had only one condition basically. If I want to iterate based on multiple conditions, then I can go for while loop, because in for loop we can't do that. Okay, so that's the difference between for and while. If you are not sure about number of iterations to be carried out, then directly you jump to while true. Okay, take it down, guys, take it down, while loop and this one. So this is while loop.
To get our channel membership, click onto the join button, select the 3D99 plan and grow your skills immensely.
Yeah, Mohan.
Yeah, done. So Ravi and Akhilesh.
Yeah, it's done. Mohan.
Yes, sir. Ravi. Ravi, are done?
Yeah, then I think. Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now you can download PyCharm Community Edition. Let me just ping that link to you guys. Okay. So you can select your distribution over here, either Windows or Mac or Linux, and then you can just download Community Edition because Professional is licensed. Okay. So this community is freeware and it is open source. Okay. So you download it and then you just install it. So from tomorrow, we are going to code in PyCharm. Okay. And in the meantime, let me just upload today's files. Let me just upload today's files in L&D Cloud. And guys, you can provide the feedback for the session so far. Okay, so in
Right.
L&D Cloud itself. Yeah.
Mohan, do we need to download community edition or free edition?
Community edition. Community is
Professional
freeware.
community,
Professional
right?
is licensed. Yeah.
Okay.
Professional is licensed.
Okay, it was
Okay,
trial.
community edition is freeware. Yeah. So let me just write files from day 3. Yeah. Okay, so it's uploaded, guys. Okay, so you can provide the feedback from L&D Cloud itself. All right, Akhilesh, Ravi Kumar, and Dennis.
Thank you.
I will get feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mohan.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So talk to you tomorrow.
Please enroll our general membership for $399 plan to get access of all the parts.
Along with that, you can access our other tutorials such as Docker, Ansible, Jenkins, Terraform, Splunk, AWS, Azure, and various other DevOps related premium tutorials with our channel membership. If you would have any issues with our channel membership, you can drop an email to us at contact@devopsschool.com, or you can also unsubscribe from channel membership anytime if you don't want to continue or did not like the video. To get our channel membership, click onto the join button, select the 3D99 plan, and grow your skills immensely. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries. We will reply to them at the earliest. Thanks for watching.